go. Good evening and welcome to the Village of Ossining Zoning Board of Appeals meeting of July 14th, 2020. Remember, due to public health and safety concerns associated with COVID-19 pandemic, the board is meeting via teleconference using the Zoom platform in accordance with the governor's executive order, specifically order number 202.1. There is no public participation in person tonight. Rather, the public can watch the live meeting online through Zoom. Notice of tonight's meeting was published as required and posted on the village website. The web notice included instructions for members of the public to access the meeting and participate in any public hearings. Comments will only be taken during the public hearing portions of the meeting as usual. In order to participate, please do the following. Members of the public attending online via the Zoom app may use the raise hand feature at the appropriate time if you would like to make a comment. The feature is located at the bottom of the screen. Those attending via telephone can press *9. The meeting host will see that your hand is raised or that you have pressed *9 and will unmute those waiting one at a time so that you can speak. Lastly, comments can be emailed during the meeting to jmartinez@villageofossining.org. That's jmartinez@villageofossining.org. Any written comments will be read into the record. Please note that tonight's meeting is being recorded and a video and transcript will be provided at a later date. In order to keep this meeting orderly and ensure we get a clear record, please follow these ground rules. When you are given access to speak, please state your name and address. If you are speaking during the public hearing, please limit your comments to the matter which is the subject of the hearing. If you are speaking, if any speaker is inappropriate, they will immediately be cut off and access removed. To the board members, please mute yourselves when you are not speaking. Also to the board members, I will call on you one at a time to speak to avoid everyone speaking at once. If you wish to speak at any time when I am not calling on you, you may also use the raised hand function or literally raise your hand so I can see you and call on you. We will use roll call voting for purposes of all board motions. This is to ensure that the record is clear. Thanks to everyone for their patience as we all negotiate this way of doing things. So for the benefit of the record, we will be doing a roll call to kick things off. When I say your name, please indicate that you are present. Marlene Cheatham, present. George Bailing. George is absent tonight. Antonio Martinez.
Present.
Kevin Griffin is absent tonight. Bob DeRayo.
Present.
And joining us tonight as our alternate board member is Nina Aaron.
Present.
Jaime, do you just want to give a, let me just go through. Joseph, also joining us is Joseph Agustinelli, and I always get your name wrong. I'm so sorry, Joseph. Joe.
Okay.
Jamie Martinez, Jaime Martinez, Jamie Kane, and Amanda Brosley.
There's a lot of Jamies around here. I'm the odd, Jaime out,
I know. And as way of introduction, Jaime, do you want to, or Amanda, do you want to introduce Nina?
I'll let Jaime introduce.
Yeah, I'll do it. So everybody, I just want to introduce Nina. Nina is only been in Ossining for a little while with us, but she actually has been in the planning and related fields for many years. She hails from New Zealand originally, but most recently, prior to her current job working on construction projects as a value engineer, she worked as the planning director for the city of New Rochelle for, I want to say, was it 5 years, 8 years?
Not that long, 3 years.
3 years?
Three.
3 years, I apologize, 3 years. So she has quite a bit of experience in her role as planning director, working in planning and zoning matters, and we're lucky to have her. So with that, do you want to maybe, I guess, give yourself a better introduction than the one I gave you now?
I think you did a nice job. I actually, although I did not start out I was raised in New Zealand, but born in the States, so I'm lucky to have citizenship in both places. Yeah, but yeah, I love planning and studied that. I'm AICP certified, but the last 3 years I've been working in the construction industry, which is also interesting.
Great. Okay.
So just to make sure everyone knows that Nina has been brought up to speed on everything that is on the agenda for tonight. So she will be sitting in for our absent board members, and we'll be voting on the business before us tonight.
Thank you, Marlene.
You're welcome. I think I got that right.
Yep.
Okay, so as we move forward, the first thing on our agenda for today is ZBA 0620 24 Aqueduct Street.
Yep.
Yeah, so we do actually have the person here from 24 Aqueduct Street, so he can tell you a little bit about what I think we have a plan already in place to start some stuff and then adjourn it, but I'm going to let him speak on behalf of this project.
Okay.
So he's been promoted to panelist. His name is Mr. Henry Fajardo.
I see Henry. Henry, okay.
Yeah, can you hear me? I got to unmute.
I can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, hello everybody. Yes,
Hello.
thank you very much everybody, board, ladies and gentlemen. I had sent an email that I was gonna postpone, with your permission, adjourn for the next month's meeting due to legal counsel. I have to confer and rechange some things based on some meetings that I've had with Jaime over the last couple of weeks. I'm just listening in because Jamie had sent an email saying that the zoning board will discuss my application tonight for the sole purpose of declaring its intent to be a lead agency for the purpose of SEQRA. No other action will be taken by the board, and the application will be adjourned immediately afterwards. So I'm just here to listen in on that declaration that you folks are having.
Thank you. As he has said, okay, he'd like to adjourn it to the next meeting, but right now we'd like to also as a board discuss becoming the lead agency on this. And he said for SEQRA review, but I believe, is it SEQRA or EAF review?
It's SEQRA. Yeah, you would do
Same
an
thing.
EAF pursuant to SEQRA.
Okay.
So you just, basically someone would make a motion to have the board declare itself lead agency for purposes of SEQRA.
So moved.
May I get a second?
Second.
Okay.
I think we should do roll call vote. So by roll call vote.
Would you like me to do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Marlene Cheatham,
Aye.
Bob Doraya,
Aye.
Antonio Martinez,
Aye.
and Nina Aaron.
Aye.
Okay. So unanimous for nothing.
Unanimous vote. Motion carried. Thank you, sir. We will move forward with the lead agency process, and we will discuss what happens moving forward.
And this is adjourned for next month's meeting, correct?
He said adjourn till next month's meeting, but
Yeah, that's correct.
that's fine.
I mean, yeah, it's adjourned. The next one's meeting is in August, probably. And so, yeah, I think you can,
Okay.
you'd need a motion to adjourn it, I believe, but
Yeah.
Okay,
Please.
so may I also have a motion to adjourn this particular DBA 0620 to the next meeting of the zoning board?
I so move, Madam Chair.
Second. Madam
Okay.
Chair.
Roll call is Marlene Cheatham,
Aye.
Bob Doraya,
Aye.
Antonio Martinez,
Aye.
and Nina Aaron.
Aye.
All right, 4-0.
I
Okay.
just wanted to note one thing, Henry, if Mr. Fajardo, if you could please, if you're not already aware of the submission deadlines, reach out to Jamie Kane.
Yeah, I'm
You
aware.
have all
I
that
got to
information.
submit by the 31st of, no, I'm sorry, by the 27th of July, and the meeting's on August 11th. We'll be ready for that.
Okay.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next on the agenda is 07-2010 Marble Place. Is there anyone here to speak on that? I have a Theodore Scopes.
I believe.
I think they were already taken off the agenda.
Oh,
Yeah.
Adjourned for the agenda.
Yeah.
oh, they are, okay.
I think the next item is 5 Brandreth.
Okay, so ZBA 1325 Brandreth Street. Is there anyone here to speak on that?
And we have JB Hernandez.
Okay. Hi, Mr. Hernandez. You need to unmute. Okay, there you go. Hi, Mr.
Okay.
Hernandez. Okay, good now.
How are you?
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. This project has been in front of the board. I believe the board is familiar with the project. We had gone in front of the environmental board last month, and I believe that what it was left to do, it was the board had declared lead agency. That's what it prevented us from having a resolution last month. And I believe that has been done already. And so we would like to move forward with the board. At this point, we have no more additional information. I think we have done everything, all the information the board requested. And there were comments, a couple comments from the environmental board that, I spoke with the client and we're willing to proceed with that, which was provide an area for bicycle. And I think there is already an area established for refusal from the all application. That's not changing.
All right, if there's nothing else, Mr. Hernandez, we can move into opening this for a public hearing.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anyone else here? Can I get a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Need a second.
Madam Chair, for the purposes of opening up the meeting, I just would suggest that we can use the method of unanimous consent.
I was going there. So if there's no objection, the motion will be adopted. Since there's no objection, the motion is adopted. So we'll use. I'm trying to use it more, Antonio. Thank you.
Either way is fine.
Okay. So the public hearing is open. Jaime, is there anyone here to speak on this matter?
Nobody has raised their hand. I guess I would remind everybody that if they do have something to say, they should raise their hand. And let me just check my email, make sure that there's nothing that has come through in the last couple of minutes. And there is nothing.
Okay. So may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
So if there are no objections to the motion that is to close the public hearing, the motion will be adopted. Are there any objections? No. Since there are no objections, the motion to close the public hearing is thereby adopted. This is a use variance before the board, which means that we would have to go through the criteria for use variance. and going through those points in order for us to move further with this application, we would need to vet out if this use variance should or should not be granted.
Yeah, just for the record, you know, usually for a use variance, well, do you want to go through, let's do the factors then?
And again, just to remind the board that for a use variance, they would have to meet all the criteria, all the factors before us on the use variance.
Okay. So we can start with the first factor, which is the applicant. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. Let me get it in front of me. The applicant cannot realize a reasonable return provided that lack of return is substantial as demonstrated by competent financial evidence. So, you know, you've got some information in the record in terms of finances from the applicant, but you need to determine if that information is competent in terms of, is it enough for you to make a determination that the applicant cannot realize a reasonable return. And the code does provide that the applicant has to demonstrate for each and every permitted use in the district that he cannot realize a reasonable return. You also need to remember that for a use variance, just because the applicant, you know, can realize a greater return from another use is not a reason to grant a use variance. So just those are some things to consider here. So maybe it makes sense to pull up for this first factor the financial information.
Yes, can we share that screen?
I got it right here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so set before us are the financials that were submitted. And, you know, again, is there a reasonable rate of return? Is it substantial? And is it, you know, and is it demonstrated by competent financial evidence? So I think those are some of the things we need to look at and discuss.
Yeah, so I mean, you could start with the income or the profits and losses. The income in particular, I think, is relevant here.
Right, so again, you know, he demonstrates that currently as it stands without the additional property, there is some rate of return. That's what's being shown. To the positive?
Yep.
What I don't see is maybe a little bit more substantial income information. Anything, I'm sorry, Nina?
Yeah, I just wanted to also say I didn't see anything showing attempts to do things within the zoning. Only this apartment option. So, and there isn't any backup here either. So we're seeing a document prepared by the applicant, but we're kind of being asked to take it at his word here. We have no additional
There's no backup documentation, right?
Yeah.
That's certainly relevant because for this variance criteria, you know, courts often say that dollars and cents proof is needed to prove the lack of a reasonable return.
And to be clear, and Amanda, just to say this, that there is a positive rate of return. So the amount of return is, we don't have to look at how much of a, they're getting back. I don't see a loss, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right. So it looks that that's the case. And so it would suggest that there is not a lack of a reasonable return. What it suggests is that perhaps the proposed apartment would create a greater return, but that is not necessarily grounds for granting a use variance.
Go ahead.
Do we want to go through all 4 of these first, or do
I think Bob is trying to raise his hand.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
Bob. I only saw a finger.
That's all I had. Yeah. Is this correct? If the criteria is that you're not showing a positive rate of return, then there's no point in doing the rest of going through the rest of the qualifications for this, because he already is showing a positive rate of return. So it doesn't qualify. Is that true?
I think I'm just going to ask that we go through all 4 of them, and whether it's yes or no, at least let us have it on the record. If
Okay.
that makes sense.
that's probably a prudent idea for the record. So this criteria, it looks, are you done talking about it? Should we move on to the next?
I think we should move on.
Okay.
Let's move on to that.
The next criteria is, let me read it. The alleged hardship relating to the property in question is unique and does not apply to a substantial portion of the district or neighborhood. So we're talking about the VC district here, just as a refresher.
This is not unique to that whole area. So we know that the downtown area has some very unique properties that have hardships, have different unique qualities that have caused people to come before the board to work out hardships for other things. So
typically, you would look at, is there something about the building? Is there something about the geography that sets this applicant apart? But you're saying, Marlene, you don't.
I don't think so. I mean, it's, we know this, it's a small street. We know that the area around it, the property around it, it's between a warehouse and an apartment. Like, I don't think there's anything about where the property is situated that is unique to the area, the whole, that whole district.
I would ask that the board maybe at least give some consideration to the shape of this particular building, which is very unique to the buildings in that neighborhood. While the property itself, has to be considered in its entirety, the shape of this building is quite different from most normal commercial properties.
Question.
Bob?
Yes, Nina.
Yeah.
Well,
How does the shape of the building create a hardship?
It can, depending on the circumstances involved.
Does it make it difficult to rent it as a commercial space because of the shape? And if so, how so?
Well, depending on, the square footage inside, does this shape of the building on the lot allow for, adequate parking, et cetera, et cetera. That I think would affect, the ability to rented out.
Sure. So I guess what I'm asking is, are any of those things there? Is there a problem with parking that's different from the problems of parking that other commercial spaces nearby have? Is the reason they're having trouble renting it the shape of the building, or is there another reason why they're having trouble renting the space?
I think my
Yeah.
first,
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I think I don't know, I may be wrong, but I was putting the parking under the neighborhood and the problems with the neighborhood versus the outside of the building. I understand, the shape of the building on the interior, but I was thinking of the exterior. There is a walk up, there is a window, there is like an outside entrance versus some of the other buildings in that area that would make it difficult to put anything on the first floor.
Yeah, this is the shape of the building. You can see it here. So the front of the property line is over here. This is the Brandreth Street. It doesn't do a good job. This plan doesn't do a very good job of showing what it is, but all of this is in the back of the lot. I can show you an aerial of it. Again, none of this material was submitted with the application.
I don't think it makes sense to.
Then we can't discuss it if it wasn't
Yeah,
the application.
So we've talked about, all right, so that's the uniqueness factor. We can discuss more further if you'd like, but I think we should move on to the next one.
Right.
Then the third factor is the requested use variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood.
The problem that I would see with this is parking. If you put an apartment on that floor, on the first floor, will it incur additional parking on a street that already has issues with parking? And we have heard from the neighbors, since we've started with this, who have complained about an apartment being there and parking on that, on the first floor of that building. So, Nina, I'm sorry, I know your hand was raised from the last time. Do you have something to add?
No, it's fine. It's fine. We've already decided we're done with the shape of the building, so it's all good. Thank you, though.
You can always chime in. I'm sorry, my mind didn't, I overlooked you, so please chime.
Okay, well, the only thing I was going to say is that, yes, I think that the shape of the building is awkward, but I don't think it's insurmountable.
Okay.
That was all.
Perfect, thank you. See, we needed to hear that. Is there anything else about the neighborhood and the character? Will it alter the essential character of the neighborhood? No? Okay.
Your head nods are not recognized by the transcript. So I would make a statement if you could.
I see that there are no other comments on this issue. So let us move on to the last point, Amanda.
Okay, good. The last factor is the alleged hardship has not been self-created. And unlike an area variance, if you find that the hardship has been self-created in any use variance situation, that is, determinative. Just as if, with any of these factors, if you find that they cannot meet any of the factors, that is determinative. So if you need me to go into a little bit more detail about self-created, what that factor is.
I think that would be perfect for the board, but also for the listening audience.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so often the self-created factor, a good example of something being self-created or finding that something is self-created is, a property owner or an applicant who knew the zoning restrictions when they purchased a property, had actual or constructive knowledge of those zoning restrictions, and purchased the property regardless. So that has been in the past determined to be them having a self-created hardship, which is problematic for the use variance. It can also be a factor in a self-created hardship it can also be whether or not the applicant has put any improvements on the property that would interfere with the permissible uses on the property, or somehow lead them to, having some sort of a hardship. So that could be relevant here. That's for the board to decide, since you do have a situation where improvements have been made in the interior of the building. The residential apartment is, already underway. But it's important to remember that if the applicant has made those improvements with knowledge of the zoning restrictions, that could have the potential for amounting to a self-created hardship.
Marlene?
Yes, Bob, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I can't see everyone right now.
The applicant has built and owns other property in Ossining and knows the rules and made those improvements without first seeking the changes needed for that permissible use to be approved. So the expense is a self-created problem, I would think, because he shouldn't have done that without checking, because if he has to rip it all out, that's a hardship, but it's a hardship he created himself by not getting an approval before he started construction. Am I thinking the right way on this?
Yeah, so think about it in terms of, has he made the improvements with knowledge of what the zoning code provides for the zone?
So the question is more of, when that improvement was made, was he aware that that space and that district was for business, was for commercial use only? Because
Right.
I believe that is in that area, in that zoning area, first floor, it should be commercial use on the first floor, and there are apartments above. So
And
I guess that's.
I think it's important to note that this owner and applicant has requested and received a variance on this very building prior to this.
I was going to say that too. He had knowledge of the fact that he already has a use variance and knows the terms of that use variance, which requires a certain amount of commercial on the first floor be preserved. So that's also a part of this.
Okay. So then, in light of that he had knowledge or has knowledge of the use of that first floor space and what it was used for, when he took it upon himself to create something else, he did it outside of the use variance that he already had, and two, it was created, it's his own, it's something that he did outside of what was permitted.
That sounds reasonable.
Okay. Nina, do you have something to add? Antonio?
Just that I agree. I think that this was self-created for the reasons already discussed.
Antonio? I know you're on.
I concur.
Okay. Did I miss anybody? Okay. So in going back through and looking at the criteria for use variance, and correct me if I'm wrong, it has, we can't determine that he has not realized a reasonable rate of return.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, no, is that correct?
I didn't mean to cut you off. I just thought you were looking for, someone to respond, but go ahead.
No, you can respond.
Yeah. Based on the information provided. Yeah.
Okay, so based on the information provided, we cannot determine that he cannot realize a reasonable rate of return.
Right.
And based on the information provided,
It's a self-created problem.
it is a self-created it is a self-created problem. I'm not
The self-created hardship is, you can't,
a self-created
not a
hardship.
self-created problem,
Sorry.
self-created hardship.
A self-created
Hardship.
hardship, right?
Hardship, yes.
So with those two, and the fact that there is a parking issue that has not truly been addressed, and which also falls into this issue, I don't think it's 100% addressed that the parking issue has been cleared up.
Do you feel like you're in a place to
We
take a vote, or
take a vote on this.
I just wanted, before you do take a vote, I just wanted to address the secret issue because, typically a use variance would require a secret determination, but if you decide, which you seem to be on the track to, if you do decide not to approve this application, which that's the track you seem to be on, you would not need a secret determination because there would be no action.
There would be no action.
For purposes of secret. So, just for the record.
So after going through the criteria for use variance, I believe that this application would be denied. Is everybody in agreement with that? I'm getting some nods. I got a nod and a thumb up.
Would you like a motion?
So may I have a motion?
Motion to deny the use variance.
A second.
And let's take a roll call.
A roll call vote, yes.
Marlene Cheetah,
Yes, aye.
Bob Durayo,
Aye.
Antonio Martinez,
Aye.
and Nina Aaron.
Aye.
Okay, and so that was 4-0. In denying the application. And I believe that the agenda says that this application, or this applicant also has does this also have an area variance associated with it? Or am I incorrect on that?
You are correct. It does have, I believe it had an area variance associated with the parking.
Oh, you're right, and an area variance for increasing non-conforming use.
Yeah.
Well, if the use variance has been denied, I wonder if the applicant would be willing to withdraw the area variance request. It's kind of moot at this point.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So the area variance has been withdrawn.
Joe Augustinelli, does he need to provide any sort of paperwork to the building department indicating that that has been withdrawn?
He's going to have to just see if he's withdrawing it. We'll mark it as withdrawn, and then I guess whatever he started under the construction will have to be removed, and have to put it back to commercial space.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, Mr. Hernandez, thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
We are, I believe, up to 74 Revolutionary Road.
Yep.
Okay. The Jug Tavern. I don't know if there's someone here to speak on that.
Mm-hmm. We have Doug Turshin.
Hi, Mr. Turshin.
Hi. You have me?
I have you, and we can hear you.
Oh, that's great.
So you're here to speak about the Jug Tavern request for the use variance that has been prior granted for 5-year renewal.
Yes. So thank you for seeing me. So basically, it's just to get a continuation of the 5-year variance that we get every 5 years. And you guys have all my paperwork, and I've talked to a bunch of you a couple of times. So I'm hoping that gets passed this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda, just to be clear, this is a use variance that has been granted in the past. And as far as I can see by the paperwork and what they are asking for, nothing has changed since, I'm going to say, probably the original proposal from 1999. Is that correct?
That would, I'm not 100% sure that it's changed. I think that that's a question for the board to be sure of. That's the relevant inquiry here. If anything has changed, since this would be a request for an extension. But if the circumstances of, the request being granted initially have not changed, then, you'd be well within your, authority to, again, grant the extension request.
Okay.
So maybe Jaime or, Jaime could probably speak better as to whether anything has changed. Help the board with that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna pull up the application. In an attempt to be as accommodating to all applicants, Mr. Doug Turchin submitted all of his information in regards to getting this stuff. Doug is not a lawyer. He's not a planner. He's not an architect. He's a representative of the Jug Tavern, which is a local nonprofit that runs the building. So they submitted a lot of information. And so the original application came in about 30 years ago, I think in 1990.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we're missing the one board member who has seen either 3 or 4 of these applications over the years, including, I think, maybe the first one, right?
Right.
Back in 1990. The application that he submitted, which, did we get the most up-to-date letter on here, Jamie?
Yes.
Okay, which one is that? The 2020 variance letter 3?
Yes.
So essentially, the application is requesting a 5-year extension of the variance, which is different in nature from a brand new use variance application. And one of the important distinctions that that provides is that because it is a use variance, normally it would require seeker review. However, because this is an extension, in discussion with Amanda and Land Use Council, it was determined that it would not be necessary to restart the seeker process, and the board could consider, if the conditions had not changed significantly, that they would be able to grant an extension of the use variance in continuance of the, sort of the same 5-year timeline. And so with that, I would kind of hand it over to Doug to maybe give any comments that he wants to provide, or if you would like me to pull up any of the items that he submitted to show the board, I can do that as well.
Basically, the reason that we asked to allow to rent the second floor is because we need that income to maintain the historic building. And basically we use it for the community. It does have historic status. I forget the exact name of that status. But basically we have a speakers program that this is the first year we're not having it because of COVID, but we usually have 4 or 5 speaker programs a year. We have walking tours every month that start in the Jug. We've hosted art shows. We co-sponsor events with other historic groups in Ossining. So that's basically what the building is used for. And So basically, I think we do have a lot of financials there showing you how we spent our money and showing you what it would look like if we didn't have this income coming in, which would mean we couldn't operate the way that we operate. I'm basically, I probably didn't introduce myself well. I'm Doug Tersh. I'm the president of the Jug Tavern of Sparta, Inc. And I live at 12 Liberty Street in one of the oldest buildings in Austin. So I'm really here to answer your questions because I think you have everything.
Thank you. Let us move forward.
Hello.
Let us.
Hello.
I'm sorry, Bob. When I'm in this screen, I can't see you.
Sorry. I have two questions. First, for Doug.
Yeah.
Has anything physically changed in the apartment you're renting? You didn't move any walls or windows?
No.
Nothing has changed?
No, exactly the same.
It's exactly how it's always been?
Yes.
Cool. Now I have a question for our legal advisor, Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a reason why this is a 5-year renewable as opposed to just doing it and being done with it forever?
Well, from reading old resolutions, initially I gathered that this was meant to be a temporary land use variance. And, you know, I guess the permission to use the second floor apartment was, you know, again, meant to be temporary, was supposed to provide some income to allow the Jug Tavern that would, you know, it would initially become like a full-fledged museum. I think I'm representing that correctly.
2-floor museum.
Yeah, a 2-floor museum. So it was meant to be temporary, and over the years it has just become something that, you know, we'll see if we're able to do it. We'll, you know, eventually make it a 2-floor museum, but they haven't been able to do that yet.
Okay.
I guess the policy reason for continuing to keep it just a temporary use variance is, you know, if there were ever anything that would happen to the Jug Tavern, heaven forbid, obviously, a permanent use variance would be allowing, you know, a prohibited use in this neighborhood that you might not want, you know, to be there forever. So, you know, I guess past boards have probably also, from what I gather, looking at minutes and such, have considered whether or not to make this a permanent use variance and have said, you know, we're just going to keep it temporary. It gives them more flexibility, and it doesn't allow a prohibited use forever.
Got it. So in this case, would it be appropriate at this time to make a motion to approve the continuing of the 5-year use variance for the Jug Tavern? Because I would do that.
I believe we have to open up a public hearing first.
Oh, okay. I can make a motion to open a public hearing.
Before you open the public hearing, I do want to note one kind of important rationale behind the policy that Amanda was talking about, the sort of the policy question that we kind of went back and forth on. The history of the Jug Tavern is that it used to be a town-owned property, and the town decided that they wanted to see this property preserved and potentially used as a museum, but for whatever reason, they were not in a position to do it themselves. So I think in working with this group from the Sparta neighborhood, they decided to deed over the property. I want to say it was for like $1. And then they took control of this property with the understanding that over time they wanted to convert it into a museum. And so the strong rationale, I think, behind granting this 5-year use variance, just to reiterate what Amanda talked about, was sort of keeping it keeping it consistent with the original intent of the village, to preserve it as a property that would benefit the public in general. So granting a permanent use variance would essentially allow anybody to come in and use it in this manner. And so, one of the things to keep in mind when granting a temporary use variance like this over 5 years is that, you wouldn't want to ever lose the obviously the building, which is a, an important part of the history of Ossining. But it is entirely possible that the organization that oversees it could lose membership, or it could lose enough money to keep itself solvent. And in that instance, if the property got taken back over by the public, or it was purchased out, in some other manner to somebody else who wasn't interested in maintaining that, that the original intent for granting that property over would get lost. And so that's the strong rationale for that 5-year extension.
Thank you, Jaime. So let's back up. So can I think we need a motion to open the public hearing.
So
I
moved.
move to open.
I second it then.
Okay, the motion has been moved and seconded, and if there is no objection to opening the public hearing, the motion will be adopted. Since there is no objection to opening the public hearing, the motion is adopted. So the public hearing is now open. Jaime, is there anyone to speak on this matter?
There is. We have Alan Stahl.
Hi, Alan. Unmute yourself.
Hi, Alan Stahl, 11 Fairview Place. I'm the the former president of the Jug Tavern, and I've been through this process, I think, 4 times over the past 20 years. Just for the record, the town did not give us the property for $1. When I took over as president, I think in 1995, we had a mortgage of more than $100,000 that we raised money over the years and finally paid off, but that's been at the expense of building the kind of endowment that would allow us to keep up with the many repairs we've had to do, as well as the ongoing public program.
My apologies for misrepresenting the facts. I think I was a little confused on how it all came about. But.
Okay.
So is there anything else you need to enlighten us on, Alan, as far as the variances that have been given in the past?
Just that every 5 years, the question of making it permanent has come up, and at some point in the deliberations of your august body, it has been decided to do it for 5 years and see us again 5 years from then.
Okay. Is there anyone else to speak on this matter? Thank you, Alan. If there was no one else to speak on this matter, Jaime, then I may have a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. And seconded.
Wait, did you move and second?
Yeah, what happened?
You can't.
No, somebody else moved the same time as me, so I backed off and seconded.
Oh.
No, you moved. I need a second.
Second.
There you go.
Thank you, Nina.
Must have been an echo.
If there is no objection to closing the public hearing, the motion will be adopted. And since there is no objection, the motion to close the public hearing is thereby adopted. Amanda, since this is a renewal of a use variance, do we have to go through all the points?
No, you just needed to consider whether or not the situation upon which the variance initially granted had changed. It's really just a matter of whether anything has changed.
Okay, since we have heard from the members of the
Jug Tavern.
Jug Tavern, plus we have seen the paperwork that has submitted showing that there really is no change in the past 5 years. May I have a motion to agree to the use variance at what is it, 74 Revolutionary Road, the Jug Tavern, for another 5 years?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Can we have a roll call vote on this one?
Sure. Marlene Cheatham,
Aye.
Bob Zaraya,
Aye.
Antonio Martinez,
Aye.
And 9 at Aaron.
Aye.
That's
Motion.
4-0.
Yeah, motion carried. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Doug.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
See you in 5 years.
See you in 5. Well, I don't know if I'll be here, but see you in 5
Hey,
years.
hope so. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Okay. Next on the agenda is ZBA 0219, 41 Cedar Lane. Is there anyone to speak on this matter?
Yes, we have John Quartuccio. I hope I got that right.
Correct, thank you. And also, the owner is also present, Rengasamy Kasinathan. This is on 41 Cedar Lane. It's a request for an extension on the variance that was granted at the end
Everybody's
of
frozen.
last year.
I think I'm frozen. Did everybody pick that up? He froze on me.
Yes, he said there's also on Mr.
Rengasamy Kasinathan.
Yeah, yes, thank you.
Good evening, Mrs. Cheatham. Good evening, Chairperson, members of the board, village officials. Thank you for allowing us to appear before the board this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Welcome, Mr. Kasinathan.
He's there now.
Okay, this is coming in as new business of the board, but I understand that this use variance was granted in October of 2019, and you can kind of explain what's been going on since then.
It's just an extension of the variance, Mrs. Cheatham. There has been work performed at the property, plumbing, electrical. The only outstanding matter that we need a permit for is the exterior staircase, and the building department had requested revised plans on a few occasions. And unfortunately, the variance expired prior to us being able to be issued a building permit by the building department and complete the work. So this is the only outstanding matter. And there were revised plans submitted on a few occasions. And I believe the revised plan that's before that's waiting building department approval is from March of 2020.
I know the owner is present. Do you have anything to add?
We thank you very much for having us on this board. We provided everything to the building department, whatever was asked. We are just ready to do the work. The contractor is, is going to finish the work within the next month or so. We are just waiting for the building permit for the exterior staircase. That's about it.
Is there anyone else to speak on this matter? Okay, so this, all right, so can I have a motion to open the public hearing on this issue, on this application?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. So if there's no objection to opening the public hearing, the motion will be adopted. And if there's no objection, the motion is adopted. So the public hearing is now open. Jaime, is there anyone else to speak on this matter?
There is a Board of Trustee member who is in the audience, but he has not raised his hand. Other than that, there's nobody in the audience, and I have no emails.
Okay. So if there's no one here to speak on this particular matter of 41 Cedar Lane, then I may have a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
May I have a second?
Second.
And if there is no objection to closing the public hearing, the motion will be adopted. And since there is no objection, the motion to close the public hearing has been adopted. Is there any discussion from the board? Amanda, do we need to go through the entire use variance since this was already granted? We're just granting an extension?
Right, just an extension. So, you know, again, whether the conditions upon which the variance were granted have changed, that's really your main concern.
Right. So seeing that there's no changes to what was originally, to the original application, they're trying to complete something that was already started, understanding that things changed between March, April, you know, the beginning of the year, with construction being halted for a lot of projects. If there's no objection, may I have a motion to grant this use variance?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
You made a motion to grant the extension?
Yeah, motion to grant the extension,
I
sorry.
knew what you meant.
Yes. Motion to
You know
grant
what I
the
meant.
extension.
I knew what you meant. I'm sorry. You want me to do a roll call?
Yes, please.
Okay, Marlene Cheatham,
Aye.
Bob Durayo,
Aye.
Antonio Martinez,
Aye.
and Nina Aaron.
Aye.
Great. That's 4-0.
I believe that is the end of our,
Ms. Browsing, I'm sorry to interrupt. You need to put that on the record that the motion carried.
oh, sorry, motion carried.
Motion carried 4-0.
I know, I thought she said that. Oh, I need to say it too?
I'm very happy to say it many times, you know, when a motion carries. Very happy about that.
Motion carried, thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank you
courtesy.
both.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Okay,
Thank you so much, everybody.
okay, enjoy, happy construction.
Thanks, Jack.
We are up to additional business of the board, is that right, Jamie? Okay. May I get, I'm sure everyone has seen the minutes from the June 9th meeting. May I have a motion to adopt the minutes from the June 9th meeting?
So moved.
Do we have, yeah, we do. Was Antonio at the June 9th meeting? I'm sorry, I don't remember. Just want to make sure we have the right quorum to adopt the minutes.
Yeah, I was here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right there.
yes. I know Nina wasn't present, but I think it was Antonio, myself, and Bob Durayo.
But
and
Nina
George.
has reviewed those minutes, I think, but I don't, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Nina can't vote. She can abstain, but she can't really vote in affirmative, so.
Right. Okay. So there is a motion on the floor to adopt the minutes from the June 9th meeting. Is there a second? I think Antonio, can you second that? Oh, did he? Okay.
Bob made the motion and Antonio seconded. Is that what happened?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. So if there are no objections, do we need a roll call vote for the minutes?
No.
So I know that Nina, I guess we need to because Nina needs to abstain, right?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, okay. Good call. So Marlene Cheatham,
Aye.
Bob Durayo,
Aye.
Antonio Martinez,
Aye.
and Nina Aaron.
Abstain.
Okay.
So the motion carried 3 yeses and 1 abstention. The motion is carried to adopt the minutes from the June 2020 meeting. Additional business of the board. I know that, I don't know, Jamie, did we add the August issue to the board minutes?
To the agenda? Yeah, it is on the
Yes.
agenda.
It is on the agenda? Okay.
Yeah, so I guess I'll bring this up. You know, one of the things that we talked about is that it is a challenge, I think, for in general to have meetings, you know, every month throughout the year. I think particularly it's hard for staff because there's really no time off for us. Sort of we have, you know, we have to miss a meeting essentially to to accommodate it. And so there are other municipalities that have taken off August, right, where they do not hold planning, zoning board meetings, and even trustees, city councils will have limited numbers of meetings during that time period. It has come to light today that we have already 5 applications for the zoning board meeting for next month. So it's probably not a good time to take that off. But I do think that it is worth noting, and next year when we're preparing our agenda or our calendar for the following year for 2021, if this board is comfortable with it, we can put in something, and we can also coordinate with the planning board so that time off would take place consistently between the 2 boards. To
Do
allow
we need
us
a
to
motion?
do a good job. No motion is needed.
No motion.
Okay.
It's just for discussion right now to see, to take the temperature of the board to see if that's something that you would be interested in seeing.
Absolutely.
Right. I think that also gives the village the opportunity to put it on the village calendar starting in January, so that there's no question as to if
For applicant purposes, there'll be no confusion about it. So
Right. But the staff needs a break.
The staff does need a break.
it'd just be nice to do it in a time that doesn't interfere with the the normal process. So
Right.
and even though we're doing Zoom meetings, it's pretty easy to take a meeting from anywhere right now. It seems reasonable to think that there's a possibility that we won't be doing Zoom meetings in 2021. Although God knows, who knows?
You're right. So if that ends our meeting, and if there's nothing else to discuss,
Well, before you do that, I have a question. Under new business, can you actually say something new, or do you have to put it on next month's the September agenda?
is it something for just the board, or is it something for the public?
I think it's for the public, for everybody, because I would like to propose that this board discuss asking the village board for a zoning regulation change, giving this board the ability to reject an application after it's been adjourned 3 times. Because currently, my understanding from talking to Amanda today is there's no limit to the number of extensions. The planning board has a limit, but you can come back here and have a never-ending series of adjournments and postponements and extensions. And I'd like to make the suggestion that this board request that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining change the zoning code so that we have the ability after the 3rd extension to deny based on they run out of extensions.
You mentioned adjournments at first, but you're really talking about they shouldn't be able to extend, there should be a limit on the number of extensions that.
Correct.
Okay.
Limited.
I think it may be worth putting this on the agenda for next month and having a broader, more robust discussion about this.
Right.
I will note anecdotally that there have been some discussions internally already regarding this matter and sort of some of the issues with the 6-month variance versus the 12-month variance and how they work in conjunction with the planning board approvals and everything else. So there have been discussions, and I think it's worth having them now in light of the fact that we're doing the comprehensive plan. So perhaps rather than just sending a letter to the Board of Trustees, there might be another forum to provide that advice through the comprehensive plan process as well.
Okay, so it's on the agenda for our next meeting to discuss that. Yes, no?
Yeah.
All right.
Jamie?
How about a future
Put it on the
meeting?
agenda?
Nah, I don't want to wait that long.
Well, I think if it's going through the steering committee for the comprehensive plan, I think that it may be on for a future meeting, but I think that if we're already looking to make some changes in some of the timelines, I think it's an addition to that, and I think it needs to move forward. I know we can discuss it, but I think if as Jaime has said, if they're looking at putting it through
Comprehensive plan won't be done
process,
till, the draft of the comprehensive plan won't be out until December.
right,
Right.
so,
There's time, I
But I
think, for
don't
this
know-
board to give consideration to it and then provide guidance down the road.
That would be
No
great.
urgency. Also, as a side note, one of the steering committee members for the comprehensive plan is married to our newest board member.
How convenient that is.
That is true.
Cool.
And I would like to just say, because I didn't say it earlier, but that I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be part of this board, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you all more.
yes,
Welcome.
Anna, thank you so much. Thank you for being so helpful tonight. Your wisdom and advice will be truly, we will truly look to it and glean from it, and so thank you. I look forward to working with you moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I'll get to meet you in person.
Yes, eventually. I haven't met Jaime in person yet either, and I think how long has it been, Jaime?
I heard you had to sign some letters, and I can bring those letters to you because I'm in town every day.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, see, I was making it
I
easy.
met Mike Baldotti in a Dunkin' Donut parking lot, so
That's like,
can't be much worse than that.
I can run up to the village hall. I can sign them, with the clerk or anybody else, and then get it done. And so, but if you're in your office, I can just as easily run up to, the armory. So it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, I'm in my office.
Okay.
Cool.
So Jamie,
I mean, I'm not in my office right now, but during the day, I'm normally in my office.
so on, on Thursday, if you just want to leave them with Jaime, I can definitely just run up there on Thursday morning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool beans.
Okay.
All right, so would you like to have a motion to adjourn the meeting,
So
or?
can we now have a
So
motion to adjourn
moved.
this meeting?
Motion to
Have a
adjourn.
second?
Second.
Second.
And I take it no one is going to object to us adjourning this meeting. So if there are no objections, the meeting is adjourned. Have a great night, everyone.
Good
And
job,
we will
everybody.
stop by 8:30. I think that's pretty good.